On a clear road, I crashed a car into a ditch, is what the Prime Minister has said. How damaging is this whole business for you?
I think what the public expects is to fix the problem. What the PM said is that, yes, there's been a mistake made, we regret that, but now we're fixing it. And last night, we voted in the House of Commons on a government resolution which does two things. One, it stops people acting as paid lobbyists or consultants in relation to political work. I think that's critically important for public confidence. Secondly, in terms of the broader question, we've asked the Committee on Standards to work up the detail, but around the principle that your overriding priority must be serving your constituents, and therefore there must be limits on external interests. The Committee on Standards will work that up by January, so it's not something that's being put into the long grass. So we're tackling and fixing the problem at hand.
OK, 297-0 is how that went through, that vote yesterday. Where was everybody else?
The most important thing is it went through overwhelmingly, so we can now deal with the problem.
But a lot of Tory backbenchers are showing their true feelings by not turning up to vote.
Well, I think there's probably other people that thought that actually these were common sense proposals, very happy for them to go through. It was a late-ish vote. I think it was around 7 o'clock, a bit later than that. But look, I can't account for every member of Parliament on either side. I was there, I voted, I wanted to vote because I think it's important.
You accept, though, that there is unrest amongst the party. I mean, the Prime Minister went to meet a series of MPs last night. As he walked into the room, it was apparently completely silent.
You'll always hear one or other disgruntled individual anonymously in the media on whichever side of a debate. My sense is overwhelmingly MPs want us to fix the problem. We've done that. Move on and start talking about the things that voters really care about, like the transport, the infrastructure, the rail announcement we've made today. I'm very happy to answer the questions, but actually, if you talk to MPs, let alone voters, they want us focused on their issues, the quality of life issues that matter to them. They want this resolved. We've resolved it. We're now talking about rail today.
And I'll come on to that in just a second.
I'm just saying, the feedback MPs give me is they want the government, same as our constituents, on the job of fixing the problems that matter to them in their daily lives.
So there's no unrest at all as far as the Prime Minister is concerned? All the backbenchers are completely happy with him?
I'm not sure I'd put it quite in that idyllic way.
How would you put it?
I'd say, look, there's always debate amongst MPs, but the most important thing and the overwhelming response I've seen is we're fixing the problem. That's a positive step forward. We can get on with the business and the job of bouncing back from this recovery stronger, cleaner, and dealing with things like connectivity for northern cities, cost of living and all those other issues that our voters care about. OK,
let's talk about what's happening with HS2. Should we the eastern leg of HS2? The Prime Minister's written in the Yorkshire Post basically saying that it's not going to go ahead. I mean, why not?
Well, look, first of all, the details of the different legs will be announced later on today in the House of Commons. I think that's the right thing to do, given the commercial sensitivity. I can tell you, though, £96 billion going into infrastructure, rail infrastructure, to link the rest of the country with the Midlands and the North. And critically, the configuration of the projects will mean we can deliver those rail links much quicker, and they will focus not just on linking the South London with the Midlands and the North, but also the interconnectivity between those regions. When you talk to small and medium-sized businesses in those regions, that is critical for them because a lot of their market thrives and the opportunities are about that regional interconnectivity, and that's what £96 billion of investment is going to deliver.
56 billion, which is already promised as part of HS2. We were speaking to the chap earlier who was responsible for the eastern leg previously. He says that the government should think again. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do.
Well, as I've explained the rationale for what we're doing, it's about speed of delivery, it's about the interconnectivity, not just between the South London, the Midlands and the North, but between the towns and the cities of the North. I'm not going to, as I said, for commercial sensitivity reasons, comment on individual legs. We will of the HS2 route. We'll hear the full detail later in the House of Commons. OK,
if it's all about connectivity in the region, why not do the same on the western leg of the HS2 line?
Well, I think we're looking at the where you get best value for taxpayers' money, where the infrastructure will deliver the best yield economically in terms of growth, and for the businesses that are already there who've got the scope for expansion and for growing. Particularly, you think about small or medium-sized businesses that can scale up. What really will matter to them, what will really add value to them. And I know that the Transport Secretary and the Chancellor have been very focused on delivering the best bang for the buck for those businesses and for the regional economy in the North, in the Midlands. That's where it's focused.
Is it not, Deputy Prime Minister, the fact that the metro mayors on the west of the country are more vocal. And as a result, you thought, OK, let's just keep that one and forget about that one.
No, but what we do want is active and strong leadership from the metro mayors, from the local authorities, who, working as a team with central government and the communities they serve, can get the best value, economic value, value for taxpayers' money out of these projects. And of course, we do consult with local leaders around the country. That's right. That's what local democracy is all about.
What about the Northern Powerhouse rail line that goes across the Pennines? Why are you scrapping that? It was in the manifesto.
Well, look, in terms of the detail of individual legs, as I said, that will all be announced in the House of Commons. It's right to do that. You've been talking about sleaze. We want to respect the
Prime Minister wrote in the Yorkshire Post.
Well, we want to respect, in terms of beyond what's already been said, we want to respect the rules on commercial sensitivity. But what I can tell you in terms of interconnectivity, which is the underlying point, this is the £96 billion is going to be absolutely focused, not just on the national links, but the regional links, the interconnectivity, where it adds the most value.
So given that it was a promise in the manifesto that there would be a CrossPennine link, that will continue?
You'll need to wait, as I said earlier, for the full details of the projects and the links and the regional links and the limbs of HS2 and the other projects a little longer. But it will be out today in the House of Commons, so you're not going to have to wait long.
Yeah, what about the people in Bradford? It's the 7th biggest city in the country. It's the only big city that isn't on a main rail line. And we were speaking to somebody from Bradford earlier. They say it was quicker by steam train than it is now.
Well, again, we're very focused on Bradford. They are a very important part of the country, but the specific projects, the specific limbs, I've got to allow the Prime Minister and the Transport Secretary to set out the detail of that in the way I described.
Yeah, the concern is that levelling up is just a catchy phrase, and actually, when it comes to it, that this Conservative Party, this government, is not levelling up by any measure. £96 billion, Kay. 50-odd billion that's already been promised.
Well, sure, but we're delivering the projects. We're setting out with as expedited a time frame as we can. I don't think anyone could reasonably say that £96 billion isn't a...
What about people in Bradford who aren't on a main rail line?
I don't think there has ever been a rail investment project on the scale of what this government is doing. I think anyone that is... I mean, people can quibble about individual lines, of course, and that's the scrutiny, and there's always more demand than there is supply with these things, but £96 billion, it's a step change. It will deliver the levelling up. And by the way, that's good for the whole country. It'll be good for the Midlands. It'll be good for the North. More jobs, more tax revenue coming out of those poles of economic activity. It'll be good for the rest of the country to have a more balanced economy. It's good for constituencies like mine because it'll mean less pressure on housing, more tax revenue generated more broadly. I think it's good for the whole country.
Let's talk about migrants, should we? I'm reading in the Times this morning that apparently you're going to gather them up, put them on planes and send them to Albania. What a great idea. Obviously not.
Well, look, we've seen 19,000 crossings stopped this year alone, 65 convictions secured, the predatory criminal gangs that thrive on this miserable trade. The Home Secretary has been engaged with her opposite number in France. This week, their determination is to eliminate all of these illegal crossings. I think it's right. There's practice around the world in relation to this to look at least the possibilities of international partnerships for international processing of some of these claims.
They're not going to Albania, though, are they? Come on.
Well, that's one country, but as Foreign Secretary, we are willing to look with partners at whether it's possible to do this international processing. The point is, as well as focusing on regional processing, which is probably the best way, the optimum way to dealing with refugees, close to source as possible, better for them. But also, we want to look with international partners at how we reduce the pull factor. So that is the incentives for the criminal gangs to try and bring people from these war-torn zones or these poorer parts of the world to the UK. We must reduce the pull factor. We'll look at all of the legitimate means of doing that, and we'll do so with our partners and allies.
I think I'm right in saying that only 5 people have been sent back home, having come to the UK illegally this year. The Home Secretary, who you quoted there on a plane, said the system is broken. You guys have been in power for 11 years.
Well, look, and we've taken steps, but the demand and the pressures have increased. The two things that we're doing, Priti Patel is looking at the asylum system. She's got a plan to fix it. We've got a borders bill that is going to be going through Parliament. I'm also looking at the related underlying issues around human rights. We're going to be putting forward proposals for consultation in relation to that. And we know we've got a big problem, particularly with foreign national offenders, and that is separate. And I don't want to conflate the issue of asylum with that, but we know we have a problem with returning people to countries because of the expansion of human rights. So we will deal with both of those issues, the immigration and border system, but also the underlying human rights framework.
But it was incorrect, wasn't it, to suggest that all asylum seekers, or the inference was that asylum seekers are potential terrorists. That's what basically the Home Secretary was saying yesterday.
I don't think that's what she was saying. I certainly wouldn't say it. My father was a refugee to this country. Priti Patel knows very well from coming from, her family came from Uganda, Indian Ugandans that came during the time of Idi Amin. We know exactly what it is like to flee persecution. But I think absolutely it's right also to say we want a system that is fair but also firm and rigorous, because that is the way you sustain public confidence in the asylum and the immigration system more broadly.
Talk to me about what's happening on the Poland-Belarus border, given that you were previously Foreign Secretary, of course. I believe 10 British soldiers, military engineers, are on the border effectively doing a recce there. We've seen what's happening to some of the people that are gathered there. They're in freezing conditions. People have died. What should we be doing?
Well, first of all, it is absolutely despicable that Belarus, and there is now increasing evidence that they're doing it in cahoots with Russia, which I've been saying for a long time, Russia's questions to answer, are trying to use the flux of refugees and economic migrants that are coming through from the Mediterranean, indeed North Africa, and the Middle East, and trying to use that as pressure on the European Union and Europe as a whole. We think that that is totally outrageous, and that's something where we would stand in solidarity with Poland and our other European partners in resisting. And that is utterly unacceptable. It's in violation of all the principles and norms of international law, and yet a further demonstration of the outrageous behaviour of the Lukashenko regime. We have also already, as you'll know, put sanctions on the Lukashenko regime. I did it as Foreign Secretary. The Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has talked about what further actions we'll take, but standing up in solidarity with our European partners, particularly Poland and others who are on the front line of that, I think is critically important.
Just before I let you go, at least half of our audience this morning, from today until the end of the year, will be working for nothing because of because of where we are with equal pay. Women do not get paid the same as men. That figure is getting worse rather than better. It's been illegal since 1975 to pay women less than men. What are we going to do about it?
Well, look, if there's any individual cases, they should be dealt with robustly by an employment tribunal. Overall, the gender pay gap has been falling.
It's bigger this year than it was last year.
But over
11.6%.
Since 2010, it is certainly reduced,
but it's going in the wrong direction.
Well, look, then we need to solve that. And
How do we do that?
Well, we need to look at the factors underpinning it. Certainly, if it is, I mean, there are trends and ebbs and flows in the workforce. The pandemic will have affected that. We know particularly women are on part-time hours will be affected by things like that. But look, fundamentally...
It's going to take another 170 years for women, apparently, as we are at the moment, to get the same pay as men.
Well, we've done a whole range of things in relation to more flexible hours, in relation to the toughening up the rules around...
Why is it not working then?
Well, I think we have made substantial progress, but if there's data which shows we need to do more, that's exactly what we'll look at.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.